The twin suns burned hot over the blood-soaked sands of the Zareth arena. The ground was dry, cracked, and stained with the memory of 1,000 brutal battles. Every seat in the arena was filled with aliens from across the galaxy. They shouted, roared, and waved flags, thirsty for violence. This was not a place for mercy. This was where the weak came to die and where the strong became legends. In the center of the arena stood Gorak, the champion. He was massive 8 feet tall, thick arms like steel pipes, skin like dark stone, and eyes that glowed like burning coals. He raised his axe high above his head, flexing his muscles to please the roaring crowd. He had never lost a match. Not once, and today he faced a human. Across from him, a single figure stepped into the sunlight. A woman, small compared to Gorak. Her name was Kara, a human marine from Earth sent to represent her people. She wore light combat armor, dirty and torn from past missions. Her short brown hair was tied back, her face calm. No fear showed in her eyes, only quiet focus. The crowd laughed when they saw her. A few even threw objects down at her feet. Human? Against Gorak? Someone shouted from the stands. Send in a real warrior. Another yelled, but Kara didn't react. She just stood still, scanning her enemy, breathing steady. Her hands flexed near her hips, ready to move at a moment's notice. Gorak stomped forward, dragging his heavy axe behind him. He stopped a few feet from her and leaned down with a mocking grin. Are you lost, little creature? Okay, he growled, his voice deep like thunder. This is a warrior's ring, not a playground for pets. Kara said nothing. Gorak chuckled. I'll make this quick. Maybe your people will send someone worth fighting next time. The horn blew. The match had begun. Gorak moved fast for his size. He raised the axe and swung it down hard, aiming for Kara's head. She rolled to the side just in time, sand flying as the weapon crashed into the ground with a loud thud. The crowd gasped, then cheered. Kara got back on her feet and moved again. She didn't strike yet. She was watching, studying. Gorak attacked. Again, wide swings, heavy steps, powerful blows, but each time she dodged, barely. She was using her speed, a T, but even that wouldn't save her forever. After a few minutes, Gorak landed a blow. Not with the axe, but with his fist. It hit Kara in the ribs, sending her flying back onto the ground. She coughed and winced. The crowd screamed in excitement. Gorak stepped over to her and raised his arms, enjoying the praise. Then he turned to her, laughing. Still alive. I'm impressed, he sneered. But you're done now. Kara slowly pushed herself up, knees shaking. Her lip was bleeding and one arm hung loosely. But her eyes, those cold, focused eyes, never looked away from him. She said something under her breath, too soft to hear. But her hand moved quickly to a small device on her wrist. A tap. Just once. Gorak didn't notice. He walked toward her again, axe dragging behind him, ready to finish it. On your knees, little human, he said with a cruel smile. Beg. Maybe I'll make it painless. Kara dropped to one knee. Her head bowed. The crowd went wild. To them, this was the end. The human had finally accepted her fate. Raised his axe, but Kara lifted her head slowly. There was no fear in her face, no defeat, only a calm, deadly look. The crowd didn't understand what was coming. Not yet. Gorak would regret ever mocking her, and in the next few minutes, the entire arena would learn the true meaning of human fury. The arena shook with laughter. Thousands of aliens screamed in joy, believing the fight was already won. The human was kneeling. The mighty Gorak stood tall above her, his axe raised, his shadow falling over her like death itself. She bows, someone shouted from the upper stands, pointing. The human begs. But Kara wasn't begging. Gorak stepped closer and looked down, his face full of pride and poison. He dragged the sharp end of his axe in the sand, drawing a slow circle around her. She stayed still, one knee on the ground, head lowered. It looked like submission, but it wasn't. You humans, Gorak said with a smirk, are always so dramatic. You enter our wars, claim you're strong, but in the end, you all bleed the same and kneel the same. He walked in a slow circle around her, dragging the axe behind him. The sound was sharp, metal against grit, like a countdown. The crowd chanted his name, louder and louder. Gorak stopped in front of her again and leaned close. Tell me something, little one, he whispered. How did your kind ever survive without chains? Weak bones, soft flesh. No claws, no venom. You're just prey, pretending to be predators. Still, Kara didn't answer. Gorak reached down with one massive hand and gripped her chin, lifting her face so she had to look into his eyes. What's the matter? He asked, smiling. Have you lost your voice along with your pride? Then Kira smiled. It wasn't wide, just a tiny curve of her lips, but it was real. For the first time, Gorak hesitated. That smile, it was not broken. It was not afraid. It was something else. Is this some kind of joke? He growled, releasing her chin. Kara finally spoke. Are you finished talking? She said calmly. Her voice was dry, cracked, but steady. Gorak stepped back, surprised. I've seen bigger monsters than you. Kara continued, rising slowly to her feet, still bleeding, still bruised, and they talked just as much before they fell. The arena fell silent. The crowd didn't cheer now. They listened, confused, curious. Some even leaned forward, sensing a shift in the air. Gorak tried to laugh. You still think you can fight me? Kara wiped blood from her mouth with the back of her hand. I wasn't fighting yet, she said, her voice quiet, sharp. Then, without warning, she moved faster than anyone expected. She dashed forward, not toward Garuk, but past him. She rolled into the sand and grabbed something she had dropped earlier, her fallen combat knife. Then she sprang to her feet, blade in hand. The crowd gasped. Gorak turned and swung his axe, but she ducked beneath it and slashed low across his leg. A shallow cut, but it made him roar in pain. Blood, dark and thick, spilled onto the sand. You dare, Gorak shouted, but Kara didn't stop. She darted around him like a shadow. Small cuts, fast strikes. She stayed low, always moving. His axe was heavy, too slow to catch her. The crowd went from laughter to silence, then into chaos. Some were now cheering for her. The champion was bleeding. The human had struck him. Gorak roared and swung wildly, but Kara flipped backward and kept her distance. Her breaths were fast now, but controlled. She was leading him, making him angry. Come on, big guy, she said under her breath. Let's see how much you like bleeding. She had only one blade. He had size, strength, armor, and an axe. But now she had the crowd watching. And more importantly, Ashay had his fear. In that moment, Gorak finally understood. This wasn't the weak little human he thought she was. This was a soldier. A ghost from a planet that never gives up. And he had just made the biggest mistake of his life. Blood stained the arena sand. Gorak's massive leg throbbed where Kara had cut him. He was still standing, but his pride was wounded deeper than his flesh. The cheers from the crowd were now split. Some still roared for the alien gladiator. But others, they were watching the human. Watching with awe, Kara backed away slowly, never turning her back on him. She was breathing hard, one hand still holding the combat knife tight, the other hovering close to her wrist. Sweat mixed with dust and blood on her face. But her eyes, they remained sharp, locked onto her enemy. Gorak bared his teeth. "You're fast," he growled. "I'll give you that. But speed won't save you forever." "I don't need forever," Kara replied softly. Gorak charged with a furious roar, axe raised high. Kara didn't run. Instead, she pressed her wrist device just once. The action was so small, so quick, it looked like nothing. But it meant everything, high above the arena. Near the lighting rigs, a faint red light blinked. No one noticed. No one but a few hidden machines buried deep in the arena walls. Gorak's axe slammed down into the sand where Kara had just stood. She moved like smoke ungrabbable. She slashed again, nicking his arm. Another small cut. Another spray of dark blood. He roared in frustration. Far beneath the arena, old Earth tech that had been smuggled into the planet weeks ago finally woke up. Hidden drones powered by stealth cores hummed to life. They had been sleeping, waiting for the signal. That signal had just been given. Back on the surface, the crowd didn't know what was coming. They thought the fight was still one-on-one. They thought Kara was just surviving. No one knew this battle was never meant to be fair, not for the human. But now, it's not for the alien either. Above the arena's highest walls, two dark shapes detached from the shadows. They were silent, invisible to most sensors. They hovered still, watching, waiting. Kara dodged again, rolled, landed on one knee. Gorak growled louder than ever. "Stop running," he shouted. "Fight me." She looked at him. Man smiled. "I already am." Then came the sound. It was subtle at first, like a hum, like pressure shifting. But soon it became clearer, metal wings slicing through the air. Low and deadly. The crowd looked up and gasped. Two small drones zipped into view, sleek and fast. They didn't fire. Not yet. They hovered in front of Kara, scanning her briefly, then locked onto Gorak. "What is this?" he shouted, eyes wide. Kara stood tall, breathing calmly again. "Back up," she said. "You cheated," he snarled. "No," she replied. "I planned." Gorak roared and lunged at her again, trying to end it before things spiraled further. But this time, the drones moved. Fast. One fired a stun pulse, slamming into Gorak's shoulder. His muscles spasmed. The axe slipped from his grip. The second drone fired a smoke burst between them. Kara vanished into the smoke like a ghost. The crowd was no longer cheering. Now they were standing, confused, shocked, scared. Gorak stumbled, coughing. His arms felt heavy. His vision blurred. He grabbed his axe again, swinging wildly, but hit nothing. Then another cut. Across his back, then another across his thigh. "She's not even fighting fair," he cried out. A voice echoed from the smoke. "You mocked humans because we're smaller, softer. But you forgot one thing," Kara said. "We fight smart. We fight dirty. And we never fight alone." She stepped out of the smoke, calm blood on her armor, fire in her eyes. The crowd was silent now. Even the announcers didn't speak. This was no longer a simple fight. It had become something else. It had become a message. And Gorak, the arena's undefeated champion, was now the one on the defensive. Gorak had never felt this before. Weakness. His legs trembled, his chest heaved, and his vision spun with smoke and lights. His body, once feared by all, now felt like it carried weights on every limb. He grunted and tried to raise his axe again, but it slipped in his sweaty grip. Around him, a once cheering crowd was silent, confused. Watching, waiting. Kara didn't charge. She circled, calm, focused. Her knife now dripped with black blood, his blood. Her armor, once dull, seemed brighter under the arena lights. Her eyes were locked onto him like a hawk watching wounded prey. "You single quotes, tot. Cheating," Gorak growled again, voice shaking. "No," she said quietly. "I'm adapting." Another drone buzzed overhead, tracking Gorak's every move. It didn't fire, but its blinking red eye reminded him he was no longer in control. Gorak swung his axe in rage, but Kara was already gone, vanished into a roll. She popped up behind him and kicked his injured leg. He dropped to one knee with a roar of pain. Now the tide had fully elicited. She was no longer surviving. She was hunting. "You thought humans were weak," Kara said, pacing in a wide circle around him. "But we didn't become a spacefaring species. By being nice, we study, we wait." And then she rushed in, slashing behind his arm before dancing back. "We strike where it hurts." Gorak's breathing was ragged now. Smoke was clearing, but so was his pride. This wasn't the same fight he had started. This was something different, something human. He tried to speak again, but Kara didn't let him. She darted in with another quick cut to his side, then rolled away before he could react. The drones hovered higher now, watching like silent judges. Kara stood tall, now facing him fully. "This arena is your home," she said. "But war? War is ours." Gorak swung again, a wide, angry blow, but Kara didn't move. She ducked, waited, and then struck. Her foot drove into his chest with full force, knocking him flat onto his back for the first time. The entire arena gasped. Even the announcers were speechless. The mighty Gorak flat in the sand. His axe lay beside him, out of reach. His arms trembled. His breath was short. He blinked at the suns overhead and blinked again, as if hoping this was a bad dream. Kara walked slowly to him, dragging her knife through the sand. Her steps echoed like thunder in the silence. She looked down at him. No more words. She asked softly. He didn't reply. The camera drones zoomed in. The image of Kara standing above the fallen alien beamed across thousands of screens throughout the galaxy. Every planet watching saw the same thing: a human, once mocked, now victorious. Kara leaned in, her voice quiet. "You mocked my people," she said. "You called us soft, small, prey." She looked up at the sky for a brief second, as if remembering someone. Then she looked back down. "You mocked the wrong species." Gorak groaned, lifting one hand in surrender, but Kara turned away. She didn't finish him. She didn't need to. She had already won. The crowd slowly began to clap. First a few, then more, then a wave. Not for Gorak, but for the human. The warrior who had outsmarted a giant. Who had turned weakness into strength. Fear into fury. As Kara walked away, her head held high, Gorak remained on the ground, gasping, broken not by strength, but by something far more dangerous. Strategy, honor, human will. As Kara walked away from Gorak's broken body, the sand beneath her boots felt heavier, like it carried memories. The crowd was cheering now, but she didn't hear them. Not really. The noise faded behind a storm inside her mind. The smoke was gone. The drones hovered silently above, but in Kara's heart, the battle was still burning. Not just today's fight, but a deeper war. One that had started long before she stepped into this alien arena. Her hand went to the small dog tag, hanging around her neck. It was scratched, faded, and covered in dried blood. Not hers, someone else's. Her brother's. Liam. He had faced Gorak in this same arena weeks ago. Another human, another marine. Brave, skilled, but alone. And he never came back. Kara had watched. The recording, the match wasn't a battle. It was a public execution, Gorak didn't just kill Liam. He mocked him, broke his bones slowly, laughed at his pain. And the crowd loved it. She had burned that image into her memory and swore revenge. The moment she saw the tournament list, she volunteered. Everyone thought she was insane. You can't beat him, they said. He's too big, too strong, too cruel. But Kara wasn't fighting for medals. She was fighting to end a nightmare. Now, as Gorak gasped for breath behind her, the crowd began chanting her name. Kara, Kara. She didn't turn back. Not yet. She walked to the edge of the arena, where a quiet corner of sand was stained darker than the rest. A place the cameras never focused on. A place forgotten by most, but not by her. She knelt, drew a line in the dirt with her fingers, then whispered, "He's done, Liam. I kept my promise." A single tear ran down her cheek, but she wiped it away quickly. Emotions were allowed. Weakness wasn't. Behind her, Gorak groaned. His voice was low now, broken. "You came here for revenge." Kara stood, turned slowly, and walked back to him. "I didn't come here to kill you," she said. "I came here to show you who we are. What you underestimated." She dropped her knife beside his head. It hit the sand with a dull thump. "You thought humans kneel to survive," she continued. "But sometimes we kneel to remember, to honor, and to rise stronger." Gorak looked up at her, struggling to speak. "You're just one soldier." Kara nodded. "Yes, and there are millions more." That truth hit him harder than any. Blade Gorak, the gladiator fared across systems, had lost to a single human. One who had planned, adapted, and fought with more than just skill with purpose. For the first time in his life, Gorak felt fear. Not of death, but of a species he had always mocked. Kara stepped back and spoke louder now, her voice clear for the crowd. "This wasn't just a fight," she said. "It was a warning. Humanity is done being your entertainment. We are not your pets. We are not your toys. And we are definitely not your prey." The silence that followed her words was long and heavy. Some aliens stood. Some bowed their heads. Others clapped. One by one. The audience rose, not just in shock, but in respect. Gorak looked up at the crowd, his crowd, and saw their eyes were no longer on him. They were on her, Kara, the small human who brought down a giant not just with fists, but with fire from within, the fury that came not from anger, but from love. The arena had never been this quiet. The crowd, thousands of aliens, soldiers, nobles, and warlords stood frozen, unsure if they were witnessing a victory or a message. Kara stood tall, her hands by her sides, blood on her armor, wind in her hair. She looked at Gorak one last time. The great gladiator lay still on the sand, coughing, broken, not just in body, but in spirit. She could have ended him. She died in single quotes, T instead. She turned away from him again and walked to the center of the arena. There, beneath the twin suns, she stopped. The drones hovered above, still watching. The crowd leaned forward in silence, and then she knelt, one knee to the ground, head bowed, hands resting on her thighs. It looked like submission, but it wasn't. It was remembrance. A voice from the arena speakers broke the silence. It was the announcer, unsure, stammering. She kneels again. The human kneels. Some began to laugh, thinking it was weakness, but others began to understand in the sand before her. Kara reached into a hidden pocket on her leg and pulled out something small. A metal tag, dog tag. She placed it gently on the ground and whispered, "You're not alone anymore." Liam's tag, bent and burned from Gorak's blade weeks ago, now lay in the heart of the arena, the same place where he had fallen, where he had died alone, mocked by the same crowd. Now watching his sister, Kara was not kneeling for Gorak. She was kneeling for Liam, and for every other human who had bled. In silence on alien soil, the silence broke as a few aliens in the crowd slowly sat down, not out of fear, but respect. An old custom shared across many species. When honor was shown in a warrior's grief, even the drones lowered slightly, as if bowing with her. Gorak blinked, still lying in the sand, watching. His pride was shattered, but somewhere inside him, something else sparked. Not hate, not rage, not respect. Kara finally rose, slow and steady, and picked up the dog tag once more. When she turned to Gorak, her voice carried across the Colosseum. "This is why we kneel," she said. "Not because we're weak, but because we remember, and because we choose to rise stronger." Gorak didn't speak. He just watched as she clipped the tag back around her neck and walked away from him. Not with triumph, but with peace. The gates of the arena opened. Kara didn't look back. She didn't need to. She had come to win. Yes, but more than that, she had come to leave a mark. Not on Gorak's body, not on his armor, but on his mind. And on the galaxy, the cameras followed her all the way to the edge of the arena. Then she paused once more and looked up, not at the crowd, not at the enemy, but at the stars. Home. Earth. Her voice dropped to a whisper only she could hear. "Liam, I kept my promise. You weren't forgotten." Then she disappeared into the shadows behind the gate. The crowd stayed silent, and for the first time in the arena's long, brutal history, a human had knelt by choice and left as a legend. The arena gates closed behind Kara with a loud thud. The lights above dimmed. The echo of her footsteps faded into the silence. But the impact of what she had done would not fade, not today, not ever. Gorak still lay in the center of the sand, breathing hard, staring up at the twin suns now hanging lower in the sky. The warmth that once fed his strength now felt distant. He tried to sit up, but groaned and fell back. His muscles were shaking, his heart even more. All his life, he had trained to crush enemies, but no one had ever spared him. No one had ever walked away. That choice, that mercy, broke something inside him and awakened something else for the first time. Gorak questioned his path, his victories, his purpose. Who was he now, without his roar, without his fear? He closed his eyes and remembered Kara's voice. "We kneel to remember, and we rise stronger." Minutes passed. Then the announcer's voice returned to the arena, softer than before. "The match is over. The human has left victorious. The crowd has witnessed something never seen before." Still, no cheers came, no music, only thought. High above the arena, a broadcast replayed the final moment. Kara kneeling, placing the dog tag, whispering into the wind. Millions across the stars watched it, again and again. Different species, different worlds. And they saw something they didn't expect. Not violence, not rage, but meaning back in the arena. Gorak finally sat up, holding his side. He looked at the sand where Kara had knelt. It was still marked with the shape of her knee, the small print of her fingers, and the outline of the dog tag she left behind for a moment of grief. He crawled toward that spot and stopped there. Not to curse it, not to erase it, but to bow his head in his own way. To honor it, he remained there for some time, long after the crowd began to leave, long after the lights dimmed. His massive frame looked smaller now, because he had shrunk, but because he had changed. The warrior who once fought for blood had been shown the power of restraint, and it had crushed him deeper than any blade. Hours later, a private chamber behind the arena walls, Kara sat alone, still in her armor. A medrone had patched up her wounds, but she hadn't removed the gear. She didn't need rest, she needed silence. Then a knock at the door. A Zereth official entered, looking uncertain. "You are being asked," he said, to stay on this planet and train our elite. Kara looked up, surprised. Train them. He nodded. They want to learn how you fight, how your people think. They say you changed something today. She looked away for a moment, thinking, then she gave a small smile. No, she said softly. I didn't change anything. They just finally saw it. The official hesitated. Will you stay? Kara stood up, slowly, and walked to the window overlooking the empty arena below. No, she said. I've got a brother to honor, and a world to protect. She reached into her pocket and touched the dog tag again. This was never about showing power, she whispered. It was about showing who we are. As the stars blinked above the distant horizon, Kara knew this fight would echo through the galaxy. Her name would be remembered, not as a killer, not as a destroyer, but as a warrior who chose mercy when she had every reason not to, and that choice, that rare human choice, was what made her unstoppable.